Really nice of you that you introduced me in that manner. Really excited to be a part of this entire journey for the next 45 minutes. So I'll just set the agenda. A lot of you are now, in fact, most of you are taking CAT, isn't it? And we have some, three really young, wonderful set of students, Shavik and Arjit and Vaibhav, who would be a part of our journey. And they are the ones who really, are going to give you a lot of, because they are first year students at IMT Nagpur. So they will share with them their experiences, their ideas as to how really interview went, how did they really manage their CAT, and they have excellent percentiles. So I think, what I would do is that to divide this entire program into three parts. The first part would be where I would give some idea, brief idea about what has been my experiences with my students. And second, I would take up, opinion of Shavik, Arjit, and Vaibhav. How do they really, really want to, or what they advise as a senior now? And what was their mental state last year when they took CAT? And the third part, obviously, if there are any questions from your side, we'll take up those questions. I think that is the whole agenda. So let me start with this the last 15 days. So on a lighter note, I was watching one YouTube video by one of the mentors like us, so I can't even blame anyone. And he said that, I will now make you reach 90 percentile in 1 hour. So, so you will, I think the first thing is that you have to stop watching such videos. I think it's very important for you to understand that anybody who gets, barring, we all know that, if you're lucky and if sitare, sare chits, all the stars are aligned properly, anything is possible. So I'm not saying that it's not possible, but then largely the scores which come, it's a product of months and months of hard work and a lot of toil and really some smart work also. So these 15 days, largely for 90% of students, would be more about relaxing, reinforcing what they have done up till now, and not committing some common mistakes. I think this is what I can say. So let me start with what one can do section-wise, whether it is English or it is data interpretation and logical reasoning and quantitative aptitude. So I'll take up one by one, and maybe, in between I will engage these three young guys and take their opinion also as to what they feel. Now let's take up English. Now, English is a section which is a sweet poison, right? So if you read a paragraph, who will not mark? But CAT is a very different beast altogether. Primarily, what I have seen is that there are two kinds of students, and by this time you would know that you are someone who is able to attempt more number of questions and get higher score, or someone who focuses on accuracy. Now, for example, in my case, I'll tell you, I used to attempt all 24. But this strategy came up because I understood that by taking number of tests, right, I would have taken 30, 40 tests to come to the conclusion that if I attempt 16, 17 questions, I get around 10, 12 correct. And if I attempt 24, all 24 questions, I still get the similar percentages correct. So I used to get advantage. But I've taught a lot of students. I'm in minority, right? And this is, I do not ask you to change in last 15 days. But if you already come up to that strategy, and if you're looking at 99 plus, then two things would happen. You would take some of the test series. You might be taking, different test series, time and CL and IMS test series. And sometimes your score will come up and down. I think whenever you go down, as far as your English scores are concerned, go back to PYQs, previous year questions. You need to understand that if you are consistently getting good scores or one test down, your English doesn't really, become bad in one day. English is about reaching a certain level, right? Let's go a bit micro now, reading comprehension, and then you have the verbal ability part. If I look at reading comprehension part, largely if I see my students and a good student who's able to get around 98, 99 percentile, They normally are now looking at attempting 2 to 3 passages and verbal ability. So somewhere around 17, 18 questions is what very good students who are, really doing well, they are attempting around 17, 18 questions. And out of this, their accuracy is higher. And with that, they get around 15, 16 correct, and then they reach that percentile. If you look at the data, and we get a lot of data through our test series, we find that largely a large chunk of people who are getting very good scores, that is where they belong to. So let's take up some other people. Like, how do people plan if they are not getting very good scores in test series? Very much possible. So I don't know what are your experiences. Let's talk a bit more about English right now. What are your experiences? I've seen people getting very low scores in test series and doing extremely well in when it comes to CAT. So let's start with Vaibhav. What are your experiences and how it went on, particularly in English?
Sir, for me, English was not a critical thing. I suffered most in DILR. For English, I was more into reading. I used to read newspapers, and also it was more of a kind comfortable to English.
What,
But one thing that I didn't,
how much you got in English, like the
I
percentile?
got, I don't remember exactly. It was around 95 points. It was 95%.
So, so how many questions you attempted?
That one thing I did wrong. I attempted all the 24 questions in overconfidence, and that was a mistake I did in my CAT exam.
Yes,
So,
I think if
uh,
somebody has not really attempted that kind of questions in test series and you have not ratified it whether you are on the right direction or not, then not a great idea actually attempting all the questions. What about you, Arijit? What happened to your English?
So actually, English was not my strongest part. So I
Mhm.
used to attempt the questions in which I was fully sure that I am sure about the answer. So I attempted two passages and the
You attempted
grammar.
around? I couldn't hear you
Two pas-
properly.
I attempted two passages and the grammatical questions.
Okay. And what kind of accuracy you used to get? Like, I'm particularly interested in knowing whether your accuracy went up in actual CAT vis-a-vis test series, or is it like it remained similar,
No, sir. My score actually in the CAT exam was higher than the test results
higher
and
than that?
percentile was
Good.
also
So
higher.
that would, Shavik, what about you?
Sir, in test series, I had a different strategy. But in actual CAT, I didn't imply that strategy. I implemented other strategy and I attempted 9 questions and I got 8 questions correct. So I scored a marks of 23 in CAT in the English section, and that sums up to something 92 point some percentile. And my strategy was like in the mocks and the test series, I was like, I have to attempt more to get more marks. But in CAT, I was like, in the CAT exam, I was very tensed, and I was like, no, I will have summon my accuracy. I will work upon my accuracy. So that's why I only attempted those questions I was very sure of.
See, I'll tell you. So I have now different perspectives. So one thing which comes out a lot of times, people what they have kind of planned in their test series, they kind of change it in the actual exam. Not a very good strategy, but accuracy is a very good strategy. I'm sure, Shavik, people who are listening to you, they would be very, very relaxed when they hear that somebody has attempted 9 questions, got 8, and got 92 percentile, which is what is very important to hear from horse's mouth, from students like you. See, my advice to students are always that please focus on accuracy. A lot of people start, students start attempting a lot of questions. Not a great strategy if you are okay with very good accuracy. Primarily, CAT is about accuracy, and especially in English, if because it takes some time, to really register. That is the first section. Sometimes nerves also start playing. So, what do you generally what section you used to start with? Uh, all three of you, like start with VA, start with RC. Share with me
Mm.
like what you used to do.
So I always started with RCs.
Acha, started with
I
RC.
I uh, I implemented many strategies during my mocks. Like I started with VA once, and I got a decent score in that too, but my strategy with RCs was better. That's why in the actual CAT and that too in my mocks, I always started with RC. I sometimes attempted VA first, but that didn't work out well for me because like RCs are like you have to give time to. You have to feel that you have to be confident about comprehending. That's why I started with RC, that the timer that clicks on the screen, right? It's like a it's for me, it was very like it was like something that haunted me. Like if I'm having 20 minutes and then I'm starting an RC, it was like very difficult for me to
I'll
comprehend
share
that
with
RC
you.
because
I still take tests, and
Hmm,
I use the same strategy which I had used during my time. So, which is I start with VA, but I don't solve all VA questions. I
hmm,
solve the theta questions first, and it gives me a bit of momentum in terms of my eye movement and also nerves. Reason I'm able to solve around 4 questions in 5 minutes time. So it gives me a kind of beginning. In RC, for me, what happens is that, and I'm not asking you to, any of the students listening to me to follow that, because each one of you are on your own. This is a very personalized kind of a thing. But yes, sometimes it might work because when you are solving an RC, you might take 10, 12 questions and you have not marked even a single question and your exam is like 12 minutes past. So nerves start creeping in, and therefore, sometimes in order, if you feel that kind of a nerves, it's not a bad idea actually to, start with VA, get your movements, 4 or 5 questions, and then leave the last 4 or 5 questions, 4 questions at the end and do the RC, because you can't leave RC for the end because you need to read and then, solve those questions. So what can finally in English one can really look at? So my advice to students would be in the next 15 days, uh, uh, obviously, tests are very important, and there are two kinds of students. The right kind of students are they take the test and they don't get disheartened by ups and downs of the scores. But last 2, 3 days, don't take too many tests. That would be my advice. But the next 10 days, I think you should take as many as mocks as possible and do a lot of analysis. This is one way one can. But if you get too disheartened by taking the test, my advice would be that go deep. So you take up an RC passage, you take up, let's take up a para completion, para jumbled, odd one out. So take a bouquet of questions and go deep, right? If you are making a lot of errors, and you should know what you are really fighting for. Let's take up you're fighting for 99, then by this time, you would have actually reached a certain level where you would know realistically that you're fighting for 99 as far as English is concerned. Similarly, if you are making a lot of mistakes, it's not a bad idea to think of solving, giving yourself a lot of time, picking up 3, 4 easy questions of VA, picking in 2 RCs, solving 2 questions, getting 8 correct, and getting 90 percentile. For me, a 90 percentile is a very good benchmark, because then you get to the very good colleges start coming at 90 percentile. We all know 90 and above, we get a lot of chances, including IMT for that matter. So that's something which one can aim at. Let's take up now DALR. Right. We've looked at it. And if